Hey guys, Dov here, back to talk about another core unit for Total War Warhammer 2, and today we've got a unit very near and dear to my heart, the Empire's Demigryph Knights. We've only got one of them in this build, but up against Bretonnia, they have some work cut out for them, absolutely. So, for the build, we've got Volkmar plus a steam tank, and 2 war wagons for an absolute wagon train, spearmen with shields, and a couple of halberdiers, plus a warrior priest to help double up on buffs. And then you also saw the Jade Wizard at the beginning. For Bretonnia, they're going to be led by the Fae, 2 paladins up in the air, plenty of questing knights, peasant bows, and men-at-arms. And that's basically it. So, about Demigryph Knights, quickly while our armies are positioning here, I want to talk about the Lance versus the Halberd variant. Most people tend to just only take the Halberds, just always. I think actually most matchups you would want to take the Lance variant for a couple of reasons. Number one is they're much more cost effective, they're cheaper, and you know, they have similar like leadership stats and most other stats. They actually have better melee defense too, which means they take less damage for less cost. Can be very key in certain situations. They also have a higher charge bonus. Obviously, still with that charge bonus, don't hit as hard against large units, but it's almost as good. And just in general, personally, I'm a bigger fan of the shielded ones than the halberd ones right now. That may change in the future, but anyway. Yeah, in terms of the actual battle here, I'm just using my steam tank to kind of fire in whatever targets present themselves. Right now, only the peasants are in range, so we'll just continue to shell them. And since all these mobile units are separated pretty far away, I'm going to get a little aggressive with Volkmar, try and run some hit-and-run charges on those peasants. Also kind of skirmishing forward with the war wagons. I did neglect there's a unit of Pegasus Knights over here. So my idea is if I can draw them in with the war wagons, these demis are still hidden in the woods here. I can pull them up and get a nice ambush when the Pegasus Knights try and swoop down and catch the war wagons, which they will inevitably be able to, given that the war wagons are much slower. But Volkmar getting his drive-by, raining some light on those peasants. Gilles Le Breton does a really good job here of responding. This is, of course, game 3 of our series. And the 2 paladins, because the Pox arrows now don't affect, friendlies, which is actually a huge change for Bretonnia that not a lot of people have caught on to. Volkmar goes down to 38 speed, meaning these 2 paladins are able to, swoop up and down, get multiple charges in here. And Volkmar's going to take a lot of damage in this approach, a lot more than I'm comfortable with. Meanwhile, here come the Demigryph Knights on the countercharge, the war wagons, basically exactly as I described, able to catch them. Most of them do get back up in the air, but a couple of those Pegasus Knights just get absolutely wrecked. And because they're held on the ground, it kind of keeps the unit nearby. The war wagons also getting some really nice effective fire in here. Meanwhile, frontline engagements kind of getting underway in a way. The questing knights got a little over aggressive here in pursuing Volkmar the Grim, and now they're going to get caught up on some spears. Granted, the steam tank side-shotting in them, they still will probably break those spears. The Fae Enchantress also coming in doing her drain effect. Over here, these the Pegasus Knights and the Questing Knights blobbing up on the war wagons, which is definitely good. They're doing a lot of damage to the war wagons. I've had to swing my Demigryph Knights up and around to deal with the Paladins because they are just doing so much damage to Volkmar. You can see here they are now juiced up by the Warrior Priest. They got a really good charge on that Paladin. I'm also using the Steam Tank in melee, utilizing that 80 charge bonus to get some good damage, and the Mass, of course, and Terror as well. But then the Demigryph Knights switch back, and just like with Shock Cavalry, like you always want to, ping-pong around back and forth between different engagements. Take advantage of that charge bonus, like I said, with the Steam Tank. They get a really nice rear charge in here, help bail out some of the war wagons. One of the units is basically done for anyway. Supporting spears had done quite nice. Likewise, the archers doing a lot of damage to my line here. The steam tank went with the banishment, was able to do some pretty effective damage. Now I'm just switching places with Volkmar and the Demigryph Knights again, charging back over into this engagement. Get the questing knights that are here, and especially the paladins. You can see that paladin gets absolutely wrecked by those Demigryph Knights. Of course, has the healing of the Fae. You can see a regrowth being popped by me now on the Demigryph Knights. Still have 21 unit models left. Just about got an XP chevron. Volkmar riding dirty with some light there. And yeah, the peasants, the men-at-arms committing to the engagement a little bit late here. I'm not sure. I don't know if Gilles forgot about them or if he was just kind of keeping them as a reserve and just using his peasants, because I wasn't really pressuring his peasants at all, right? But certainly it would have been nice to have that infantry support in some of these cav battles. Volkmar once again in trouble though, surrounded by angry Bretonnian knights, telling him that he is wrong about Sigmar and very much should go the way of the lady. The Demigryph Knights come to support the Sigmarite cause though, and with some nice buffs, they should be able to finish off those Pegasus Knights, four actually, that charge down. Questing Knights as well. Some timely Halberdier support helps screen out this other unit of Questing Knights from charging them in the side. Even still though, Demigryph Knights, I mean, they've had to do so much lifting in this battle between the Paladins, the Questing Knights, a lot of units that they've had to do serious damage to. And so, more buffs, especially the Shield of Faith, the fact that you can stack that up to 44% damage resistance to help take damage, keep from taking damage in the first place, rather. The Jade Wizard also still just chilling completely safe in the back here, just hidden in the woods. At this point, the Demigryph Knights are a little bit at risk of getting taken out. They're kind of surrounded. The peasants are now starting to bog them down, so I peel them out, and because I've been able to take out a lot of the knights earlier on in the battle, I am able to kind of disengage them here. Some of the models are still caught up, but they finally get another regrowth, down to 16 unit models, 2 XP chevrons, only 42 kills, but a lot of high-value damage being done. And at this point, the balance of power is pretty clearly in my favor. The fact that, I mean, Volkmar's almost died several times, but I managed to keep him alive, just barely. And the steam tank also very, very healthy. Those 2 unbreakable chariots count for a lot on the balance of power. Not only that, but the Demigryph Knights as well, now charging once again with their fresh vigor from that regrowth, getting a beautiful charge in here. Vigor, especially in the late game, super, super important. And there's no Grail tier units that have perfect vigor for Bretonnia. They do have regrowth on the Fanchantress, but she's now surrounded by the Demigryph Knights. Volkmar. State troops have had a saga all their own, fighting in the front line and then pushing up and trying to get at these archers. Gilles has done a pretty good job of trying to protect his archers in general. I've been able to get damage on some of them, but this cavalry engagement, because it went so decisively in my favor, I was able to get these Demigryph Knights up to their healing cap now, pretty much, and just do so much work with them, hammering back and forth between different engagements. Played pretty key in this win here. And of course, you check out my channel, especially over the last, I would say, probably 6 months, 7 months maybe. I've been using the Lance Demigryph Knights a lot more, and you'll see a lot more of them if you look within that time frame. And we can kind of talk about when to use the halberds and when not to in just a second, but that was probably one of the best performances I've had from a single unit of Demigryph Knights. I mean, they helped take out, they basically single-handedly, I would say, actually took out both the Paladins, did a ton of damage to the Questing Knights. They didn't solo kill the Pegasus Knights. Actually, a lot of the damage there came from the War Wagons, but still, you know, 2 XP chevrons. I think they were pretty close to getting a third as well. Very cost-effective for them, considering they're only 1,400. Volkmar, of course, absolute terror in the night. And Distraction Volkmar, in this case, I think led, I don't know, again, if the peasants, the men-at-arms hanging back was a mistake, but he definitely wanted them supporting that cavalry fight. And they, because he had more numbers, might have been able to bog down the Demigryph Knights with one dedicated spear unit to them. But regardless, I don't know where I was going with that. Yeah, the Distraction Volkmar, because it kind of gave the impression that he was close to death. The Paladins end up committing a lot of time, which, you know, forces me to micro Volkmar, granted. But if I play my cards right, it's going to be really hard for Gilles to actually finish him off. So he ends up spending a lot of resources committing to try and finish Volkmar off, and that allows the Demigryph Knights to basically operate with a free hand, more or less. And a lot of people will say Demiblob in this matchup. You don't even need a Demiblob, honestly. You really only need 1 or 2. Maybe even just 1. But one of the reasons I would say this is a matchup, you might think, well, don't you want the anti-large bonus, given that Bretonnia has just a ton of cavalry? And you might think that, but peasant arrows are pretty serious. They do a good amount of missile damage, especially in enough volume. 3 armor piercings, not too bad. 16 overall. And the fact that the poison now doesn't affect friendly units means you can expect a lot more peasant, especially pox arrows, shooting into cavalry engagements, right? So the missile block chance does end up coming in handy there, just to mitigate that much extra of the damage. I would say there is an argument to be made for the halberds here, but the shield's definitely very important, and that goes true of any faction with good missiles, like Dark Elves. You know, they have got plenty of armor-piercing missiles. Dwarfs, of course, if you're going to bring any Demigryph Knights, you wouldn't want the anti-large ones. Greenskins as well, like, they have a lot of really good heavy infantry. They have some decent monsters and stuff, but you have other tools that can take them on, especially with your missiles. High Elves, again, lots of AP missiles. I guess Greenskins, in terms of their missiles, they've got pretty good armor-piercing missiles as well, with Orc Airboys, not obviously like the High Elves with Sisters of Avalorn, but that missile block chance can come in handy here. And just again, the High Elves can, even if they don't bring Sisters of Avalorn, like a high volume of Lothern Seaguard and Archers can do enough focus fire to be effective. Against Dragon Princes, you want that extra melee defense, certainly. The anti-large bonus is nice for hunting dragons, though, I will give you that. Lizardmen, this is one matchup where probably the anti-large bonus is worth it to take. It is a 100-point upgrade. And you can see here that the stats do change pretty significantly for the worse. -6 to melee attack, melee defense, and weapon strength. 6 melee defense might not seem like much, but a 6% extra chance to hit or not be hit does come in handy. Obviously, the anti-large bonus applying to the melee attack, 25 puts that much higher against large targets, but given the 12 differential in charge bonus, that makes up for it, you know, like halfway, I guess. Yeah, almost halfway, and so you're really only getting like 12 more damage, potentially, against the... and 12 more melee attack against... I guess the -6 would be only 6 more melee attack then against large targets, so really it's not that much of an upgrade, and considering, I mean, 35% missile block chance might not seem like much, or 30 only actually, wow. But the fact, again, that it's cheaper and you're taking less damage for less cost just makes it that much better overall. Against Lizardmen, though, again, because they have such a monster focus, you might actually want to bring the Halberds here. Royal Altar Gryphites also, because they cause terror, are immune to terror, so can be a good option there. Or also, if you don't want to have to bring Manticores or a Griffin, and you want terror, Royal Altar Gryphites, obviously a solid option for that. Anyway, Norska, I don't know. Here, I would say probably Knights of the Blazing Sun are what you want to go with anyway, but if you do bring a Demi, I could see going for the anti-large version. For me personally, though, again, because I'm getting a lot of my synergy from fire damage, it doesn't really matter having that little bit of extra anti-large. I'd rather have the melee defense, I think, and the missile block against javelins and stuff. Same thing, obviously, Skaven have a heavy missile emphasis, so you definitely want the shields against them. Tomb Kings, again, the missile block. The melee defense for the Tomb Kings is nice. They do have some constructs where maybe you might want the Halberd variant, but Coast, you probably wouldn't even bring Demigryph Knights in this matchup. But if you did, you definitely want the shields because of missiles. Vampire Counts, this is one I would say, for me, even personally, I need to play a little bit more, but I think probably it's better off to have the Demigryph Knights with Halberds here, as a general rule, because they have that anti-large bonus. They're going to be hitting just that little bit extra, damage against the appropriate targets, and the fact that the Vampire Counts have 0 missiles to worry about means that the missile block chance is a completely moot point. Extra melee defense certainly is good, especially if you're matched up against Blood Knights, like for those of you guys who saw my last video, but you can maybe get some other defensive stats from other things, like from Volkmar, and, you're also bringing Lore of Fire there, Cascading Fire Cloak, although if you're bringing Demis, you probably want healing for them as well. I don't know, it's an interesting one. I think probably, though, just because of the fact that the Vampire Counts have no missiles whatsoever, Demigryph Knights with Halberds would be good there. Warriors of Chaos, you might think that because they have pretty limited missiles as well, that you would want the Halberds here, but I would say actually because of the Armored Chaos Infantry, it's nice to have the hybrid utility of the regular Lance variant. Having that extra damage against infantry, especially armored infantry, can be good here. What else? This is not a matchup, again, where you typically see demis, but if you do, absolutely you want that missile block chance. So hopefully that's kind of explained that. If you guys want more of this unit highlight content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Yeah, that way you won't miss any time when I upload. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.